Leo, good to see you, buddy.
What's up,
How you
brother?
been? Good, man. Good.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Doing well.
Good. It's been a long time. The last time I saw you, you were in, I lived down in St. Petersburg, back again where I grew up. You were in Tampa.
Yeah, it was with the Highway Patrol.
You were the Highway Patrol.
Yeah.
Now you're back up here in Tallahassee.
Yeah.
Doing super cool things with Peter Boulware at the Toyota dealership running this up here. And we're going to dig into all of that here in just a minute.
Yeah.
But the podcast is called Sort of Soaring. Soar athletes, soaring to do greater things. You're an athlete. We're going to dive into that right now. Brannon Snead, you were a baseball guy.
Yeah, I was.
You were a baseball guy 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Where'd you
feels
grow
like it. So I grew up here. I grew up here in Tallahassee. I'm from Tallahassee. Originally, I was born in Charleston, West Virginia, a little small town called Malden. Grew up with somebody who a lot of people know, a guy named Randy Moss, which a lot of people know. So Randy and I went to elementary school. We're childhood friends. Of course, over time, we've lost contact, but we're really good friends back in the day.
That was also Jason Williams.
Jason Williams, yes. Jason was older. I wasn't friends with Jason. My brother knew Jason, but at the end of the day, was friends with Randy and a guy named Bobby Howard too. Played at Notre Dame, went on to play with the Bears.
Yeah. That's some pretty cool stuff. They're all over the internet now. Jason
Yes,
Williams was
yes,
all over the
yes,
internet,
yes,
which is
he
cool.
He is. I actually played when we were kids, a couple of go-home one-on-one basketball games with a guy in group. Just super fast, super quick, way ahead of his time for the rest of us.
Oh, yeah.
Phenomenal athlete.
Yeah. Well, those guys up there, there's something in the water up there, man. And you too.
Yeah.
You weren't a basketball guy as much as I think you probably grew into maybe baseball a little bit, but
Well, for me, basketball was my favorite sport. I just too slow to play it continuously. Could shoot well. My cousin played here at Lincoln, still is the all-time scoring leader there, Ron Miller, if anybody knows who that is.
I certainly know who that is.
Yeah, Ron, and then Red, his brother, played and had most of the football records at Lincoln. Since they've changed their philosophy and the way they play the game, they pass 40, 50 times a game. Back then it was 17 to early 20s. So, But still two phenomenal athletes. I got to follow in their footsteps at Lincoln, and I had a great time when I was there.
And as a kid, I went doing the research for this, and you actually played with us when I was coaching in college.
I did, yeah.
So I got to coach you. Now you were on the pitcher side, I was on the catcher side. So we're in the bullpen together, all that kind of stuff. And I'm not that much older than you, but as it happens, when we start coaching, you finish playing and immediately start coaching, which is what I did, and you were kind of coming in. I was doing the research for you. I found out that you were that guy in Little League and growing up.
I was. I mean, I played with a guy that a lot of people know, a guy named David Ross. He was my catcher growing up in Little League, Babe Ruth.
He wasn't too bad.
He only won 2 World Series. And
with two teams that hadn't won it in like 100 years.
Yeah, and Dancing with the Stars, second place trophy, so good for him.
Yeah, I think that one he covets the most.
Yeah. Hey, man.
Impressive.
Yeah, most definitely.
Who else does a pop-up slide on Dancing with the Stars?
Him.
Yeah. David Ross, Grandpa Rossi.
It was funny. I saw Dave a week ago and got a chance to catch up with him. We took a flight from Atlanta too. Just the same guy we grew up with, man. Just a great guy.
Yeah.
Still a great guy.
And I've known him for years too, and I got a chance to work with him in all the camps and clinics and things like that. And you're 100% right. I mean, the guy that everyone sees is the guy that he is.
Most definitely. I mean, came from a great family. Parents are, he's still fortunate to have both his parents. They're wonderful people, and he's always been good people growing up. Dave's just a exceptional, down to earth guy.
Well, and he certainly had talent, like you had talent. Younger, you were on the bigger side than most kids your age, weren't you?
I was, yeah. To be honest, I was. Yeah. I mean, I threw hard. But at the end of the day. It's can you sustain that for a long period of time? You know that things are different. The game's different than we grew up. The coaching's different. The philosophy's different. For me, man, it's tough. Really got a chance to really learn baseball when I started coaching for a guy named Mike Posey around here.
Yeah, he's a bit of a legend at North Florida.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, everybody knows his son Mike is a pitching coach at Florida State now. But Coach Posey he's got 1,000 high school wins. I mean, just a phenomenal coach, a science teacher, master's degree, really studies the science of the body and the game. And man, I learned so much working with him. Just phenomenal coach.
Well, you went to Lincoln though. That was Fuller, who actually coached with us.
Yes.
So you got Fuller in high school. Then he came and coached with us in college. He helped out our program as well. So you got him in high school and college as well. But in high school, you did pretty good in high school.
I did. I'm still very blessed. Lincoln's had some good athletes go through there. Austin Pollock was a big pitcher. Tyler Holton, still the all-time winningest pitcher, all-time strikeout, all-time season strikeout holder. And those records are 30 years old. So just very blessed to be able to accomplish that. Had some offers to leave, had a chance to go to Bowls, North Florida Christian, Florida High my senior year. Wanted to stay at Lincoln to focus on the team. I was on varsity for 4 years, so 3 years of that I had to give up my senior year. But when you look at things, I might have did things a little different. Might have had a chance to play with a lot of guys and for a lot of coaches that I wish I had got that opportunity to play with. When I look back on it. But at 17 years old, making that decision, it's a big decision.
It is. Now, in helping you make these decisions was your mother.
Yeah. I'll say it. I was a mama's boy growing up. My mom has led the way for me in a lot of ways. She's my hero, my mentor. And, but my mom was a basketball player. I guess maybe that's where the passion comes from. My father was in the Marine Corps, was a law enforcement officer for 46 years. So that's kind of was my passion, grew up into that. I wanted to be like my dad, like my mom. And, my mom we're still very close to this day. I'm very fortunate to have my mom around, both my parents as well. So.
Well, I've spoken with your mother many times. And when you start talking about Brandon and when you start talking about sports, you could, on the phone, she gets going. She loves it. Certainly loves you. But and you had, and we'll dive into it as much as you want because we really try to unveil. We want to pull the curtain back and talk about some things on this sort of Soaring podcast that might be a little uncomfortable, but we want to talk about the real part of it. And you had some setbacks coming into college, which also involved your mother, and it was one of those things where she was very vocal, certainly with me, about your collegiate career to a certain degree.
Yeah, she was. I mean,
which I appreciated that. And usually in college, we don't have a lot of dialogue with parents. Circumstances, though, did require that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, if anybody could learn from my trials and errors and my path with stuff, that's what it's about. I mean, I was very blessed, though, coming from a whole lot of nothing growing up and accomplishing and having what I have from then today. I mean, I tell people here, especially in my profession now, if I can do it, you can do it. A lot of things are process, people, and hard work. At the end of the day, if you can put those three things together, you can accomplish a lot in life.
Where'd you get that from? Was that a sports thing?
Look, I mean, I never felt like I was blessed with extremely great coaches growing up. And it was unfortunate because I knew there was great coaches around there. I just felt like maybe if I had a coach, I can really truly say that the last really good pitching coach that I had was a guy named Dick Ingram at Winthrop Park. And, had I had somebody that I felt like was a good pitching coach, and I had good coaches, great coaches, matter of fact, but they were position players.
Right.
Matt Robinson, a prime example, probably one of the best infielders. He played at Florida State.
Tater.
Yeah, went by Tater, but
still holds a double play record. Him and Jody Reed at FSU.
Absolutely, but when it came to pitching, he just wasn't a pitcher. Right. There was nobody there, and we never, especially at Lincoln, could ever find anybody that was really focused. I was blessed to have a guy named Brett Richardson, if a lot of people know who that is. Brett was a coach at FAMU, Alcorn State. He's back at FAMU, and that was about the extent of a pitching coach. But at that time, his first pitching coach job was with Lincoln with us.
Right.
But just a phenomenal person, phenomenal coach too, and he's really done well with everything he's touched and done. So very proud of him and happy for him as well.
He has. He got thrown into the wolves, and we'll sit down with him. I did a podcast with Jamie Shoup, who's the head coach at Florida A&M, and we'll sit down with Brett a little bit. His story needs to be told. That's a very interesting coach's life.
Yes.
And we won't spoil that now. We'll wait and sit down with him.
Yes.
But through that lack of instruction, and this happens a lot to athletes. Yeah. We're in a world now where you can get just about whatever information you want to on the internet. However, does it fit you? Is it correct for you? Someone still has to apply that. You can't just go the internet and off you go. You have to have somebody that can help you apply and work through that. And that's when the coach is super important to know what he's doing, especially on the pitching side. Because what we do, frankly, is dangerous. Our bodies are not meant to throw at that velocity from this position. They're just not. And that leading edge, which is the elbow, show yours. There's one right there.
That's it. Yeah, it's a prime example of it.
When did you get hurt?
I got hurt my freshman year in college. very, very tough for me as a coach and as a player and looking back on things. You know, when you really start changing people's mechanics when they're used to throwing a certain way for a certain period of time, man, that's just a risky thing. And the one thing when I talked about Mike Posey is my 4 years I coached with him, I never saw that. He took the player and we took the player and we worked from their strengths. We never changed their mechanics. We never changed their arm slots. We never changed the positioning to make everybody a cookie cutter pitcher. You know, we took the way they threw. If they naturally were sidearm, we left them sidearm. We just found a better way for them to be at sidearm. Right. But, you know, just the science of, you know, from stuff from eyes, wise tees to lifting to weighted balls to just all these things that we never even had. I mean, it was, as you will know, hey, go run to the Sing store and back, and you're like, okay, you know, go do some sit-ups. I mean, right. What kind of program was it? And I think that was my biggest disappointment, you know, coming to at that time Tallahassee Community College, was there was really no structured pitching program.
It was very challenging, and having coached there, and the original coach, I was team 1. I don't know if you know that. I played there. I was team 1.
Yeah.
And so when you walk down the hallway, the first picture on the wall, I'm in that picture.
Yes.
And I coached there for 6 years. And the original coach is not with the program anymore. Brian Henry's taking the program. Great coach, great guy. Had him on the podcast. We'll have him again. But it was in the first few years when you start coaching, and that was his first job.
Yes.
As the head coach. Now, he was a Florida State guy, and he was a pro ball guy.
Fam and
all that stuff.
Yeah.
But that was his first time with it on him. And there were a lot of mistakes made. And some guys weathered the storm. Unfortunately, you were one of the guys, one of my favorite all-time guys.
I appreciate that.
But you get it came apart for you.
Yeah, it did come apart.
So your mechanics were, if I remember, this is going back a long time, I think you kind of flew your front side a little bit, but you were not a little guy. You were a bigger dude, and you didn't mind handling it, but what you did best, I thought, you competed better than 90% of the guys we recruited. 90% of the guys we recruited. You wanted to win, and that's an innate thing. If you ask an athlete, you want to win, they all say the same thing. And then you watch what they do, and they don't do things that winners do. At any point in time, I could look down to the corner, and you were having fun with everybody and stuff like that, but you're getting work in. You're doing what you need to do. It was very obvious. And then when you got on the mound, brother, you were getting after it. You were coming to get you. Yeah. And you competed like you were competing at a big league level. It was very impressive watching you pitch. Take us on a little bit of a journey. What happened with you changed your mechanics? Why? Was there did you have to talk you into it?
Well, I mean, when I grew up and say some of these names, the guys that you watch on TV and you emulate, you want to be like. I mean, think about a guy when you hear the name Nolan Ryan. What comes to you? He straight back, over the head, wind up. How about a Roger Clemens?
Coming to get you.
They both had the same mentality. They both had similar ways that they threw and pitched, and I wanted to emulate those two guys. So I threw straight overhand like those guys. I was over my head like both those two guys. And at the end of the day, why not? If you want to be like the best, why not look like the best?
Sure.
And everything was fine. Even having pro scouts come out to the games at Lincoln and look at me. Not one time was it mentioned. At the time, I was highly recruited by Florida State. You mentioned Jamie Shoup. He never had an issue or asked questions, because some recruiters would. Hey, why do you throw this way, or why do you do that, or why do you stand this way, or you know that. I mean, you were a phenomenal coach. Let's say that you mentored a lot of us. But then when you go and someone says, "Hey, I want to cut this out," and you don't get any reasoning. You know, but I came from a world where you didn't ask questions. You didn't talk back. You said, "Yes, sir," "Yes, ma'am." And if an adult told you to do something, you did it out of respect for the adult. I mean, till to this day, I still "Yes, ma'am," and "Yes, sir" my parents, and I'm almost 50. So, you know, so the reason for me and for at that time, it was Mike McLeod, I'll tell you, is that he wanted me to be short, you know, not as much, conserve energy. Those were the things he said. No need to tire you out, because now instead of having to throw 7 innings, you got to throw 9 innings. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I just didn't question anything. He wanted to change from overhand to 3/4 to get the ball a little more movement. I threw straight overhand. Yeah, I mean, if you're 3/4, you're going to get more movement in there. But then, as you know, your elbow starts leading. And if your elbow gets ahead of your arm, it starts putting pressure on your elbow.
Right.
And for a guy like myself who never twisted the ball, I had a huge curveball. It was a roundhouse curveball.
It was a hammer.
But it broke 12-6, and it was
a
nasty.
Hammer, dude. It was hard, and it was coming
hard, fast, and I mean, I was very fortunate that I was within an inch of the glove when you put locations there. I mean, I had very few walks ever. I mean, I was known for that. I was known for being a location pitcher. But then when you do that and you change your mechanics, change the way you throw, you got to reset your mindset too. I mean, because it changed my curveball. I then started throwing a little bit of a slurve a little bit because of that, a slider and a curve. And although I was excited about those and adding some pitches to my arsenal at 18 years old, it was totally learning how to throw again.
Yeah, well, now you're sore differently. Now you're preparing differently. And actually, people don't realize they talk about how the whole thing worked, the kinetic chain, and coaches will talk about that. It's really about timing. And when you're changing slot, it changes the timing of your mechanics.
Absolutely.
So the congruency of your mechanics get thrown off, and just a little bit's enough.
Well, in pitching it is, and you know that. You talked about being sore. I was never sore in high school.
Yeah.
I was sore every day in college doing that.
Yeah.
And, I remember having a conversation and just being like, it hurts.
Yeah.
But, back then, I didn't witness it as a coach in high school, was suck it up, stop being a certain way, and just throw the ball. But, at 18 years old, I mean, and the way I was brought up is okay. Mm-hmm. At that time, I mean, I wanted to go play. I was very fortunate I had opportunities, but I wanted to go play for somebody I felt like, because I never truly had a pitching coach, to go do that. I was excited because I had Bill Fuller my first 2 seasons at Lincoln, freshman, because I was very fortunate. I made varsity as a freshman, and sophomore. But, he was coming down on his career. He was backing off and wasn't doing the things that he did early in his career. But when I got him in college, it was fun. I had more fun with Bill Fuller that freshman year and sophomore year than I ever did. And
well, it's interesting you say that, because I was on that staff too.
Yes,
and a high school coach has so many hats they have to wear, and it's a very difficult spot to be in. When you go to college, a lot of that stress is off, and you get to work with the athlete. Yeah. And they don't call you, it's Leo, it's Bill, it's John. It's a much more collegial kind of relationship. And I remember talking with Bill many times, recruiting players, and he was very stand-up. But then I got to work with him. Now I knew that was Fulte.
Yeah.
That was Fulte.
Yeah,
what's up, man?
Yeah. And that was tough for me, when a coach would tell you a guy like Jeff Hogan, and then I know you'll get in that, to call him Jeff. I can't do that today.
Yeah.
When you look at a guy and you look at someone that has coached phenomenal athletes, multiple state championships, pro scout,
Hall of Fame.
Yeah, just calling him by his first name just doesn't equate for me. And it was just like calling Bill Fuller Bill. I just never could do it, man. I mean, and it was funny you say that. It was the one thing when I talked about with David Ross about that, is just, that's what they do. They call them their first names, and for me, it's hard to grasp.
Yeah.
But then again, I've never been the professional atmosphere like that to that magnitude. I was blessed to be around that as a trooper, because we guarded and we protected. We did protection for a lot of the football teams, the Bucks, Florida State, all the college teams in Florida. So, but being in the locker room with them, being on the field, being with the coaches, guarding them. It's a different atmosphere.
It's different. It's super cool. It is. And now, your elbow, did it pop on you?
So what happened was I was thrown in the bullpen and with Coach McLeod, and if I could equate it to a feeling of when you see a rope pull and unravel, that's how it felt. And I threw one pitch. It kind of, you hear somebody say you tweak your elbow, and I was like, ooh, that don't feel right. And then I threw something else, and this pitch was, for me, it was very uncommon, because instead of being within the confines of the strike zone, it was 3 or 4 feet off. And I remember saying something, and Coach Fuller was there too, to Coach McLeod, and we had a little bit of exchange of words a little bit, because he wanted me to get back there, and I was like, no, I'm done. Something's wrong. I don't know what it is. Something's wrong. And that's when I got to go see Dr. Steve Jordan, who's moved on to Pensacola with his practice and mentored and did all these surgeries.
That guy.
Yeah. I mean,
he's done everybody's elbow
and
around
if you
here.
know anybody, I mean, from his internships to what he's done, I mean, phenomenal. And made an appointment to go see him, and I was told I had a tear. And for the first time for me, that was tough because I'd never been hurt, never had pain. Well, like I said, never been sore. And to now have a tear and focus with that, what do you do? I mean, like most kids, I mean, we all have a childhood dream of going pro and wanting to play and make it. But when that happens, you're a right-hander who's throwing mid to upper 80s, and now you're a dime a dozen. Now you got an arm injury. Can you come back from it? And for me, I was supposed to come back. I was supposed to be out a year, and really, truly, I came back in 6 to 7 months. But it goes back to what you were saying about wanting to win, determination. My conversations with Peter Boulware, everybody knows who he is. I mean, he says the one thing he loves about me is Brannon wants to win. Yeah. I mean, and I still have that mentality today, and still have that with the staff that I have, in my job.
100%. And it's just different. And I was talking to one of your guys. We were interviewing one of your guys here a little bit ago and talked with him. You have a gravity about you, and you've always had this. And it is noticeable. And you attract people like you. And it is a very, and we talk about this a lot with the athletes. Yeah. It's about being authentic. Authenticity is, and the way we define it, authenticity is belief, but it's through objectivity. It's not just believing in yourself. That's delusion. It's based off evidence. And you have the evidence. Like, look, I've done this. I'm here. I'm willing to put the work in. The reason why we do this, because it works, because I'll show you how it works. And when you went to the mound, I saw you in high school pitch. I forget exactly who you were playing. But when you watch a guy that wants to win, there is a singular focus and a manner in which they go about business. And the message that they're sending is, look, man, if you want it, you got to take it from me. You got to take it from me. I ain't giving it to you. And those guys, I don't know where you get that. As I wasn't a very good player, I had the ability to win. I wasn't a guy that at 5 o'clock during BP, unnoticeable. But in the 8th or 9th, I'm fine. Yeah. I'm good there. Yeah. That's my comfort zone. You know what I mean? I'm good there. That's no problem. When you towed the mound, it was their ass. You were not a mouthy guy. You weren't that guy, but you came to get somebody. Every time you threw, and you compared, not necessarily comparing yourself, but some of the guys that you watch are the Nolan Ryans and the Roger Clemens. That's the same thing they have. That's how they do it. They're coming to get you. And if you want it, you got to take it. For you, that is one of the, and these are the coaches' meetings that we have that you guys aren't privy to. Your name came up in several coaches' meetings. And the staff we had, Jeff Hogan, legend. Bill Fuller, legend. McLeod obviously was there for 35 years. Not really a legend, but I was part of the staff. I did pretty good there. Many conversations about you and about how you add to this program. That gravity that you have, that you add to the program. You were a grown man when you were 18. You acted like a grown man when you were 18. You weren't a kid. Does that make sense?
No, I mean, my biggest frustrations is, coach would put a curfew in place. Yeah. And, I was in bed, curfew, ready to go. We're playing a doubleheader against Manatee the next day. And, really the breakthrough for me after recovering from the arm surgery was one of our players decided, hey, he wanted to go out. He wanted to go out and spend the night and do things. And, I'm not even throwing. I'm not even on the radar to throw the next day. And I remember we're taking BP and I'm standing in the outfield and Coach McLeod comes walking out there and, like any other kid, you're like, I'm out there by myself shagging balls, and I'm like, yeah, what's going on now? What did I do or what the issue is? Yeah. And I'm not doing nothing but shagging balls, take them to the bucket and coming out here catching.
Am I doing that wrong?
Yeah. Is there an issue? I'm not catching it right. He walks out to me and he takes this ball from his back pocket and he throws it at me or not throw. I won't say throws it at it, tosses it to me and I catch the ball, and he's like, hey, warm up, you got 15 minutes. And I was like, okay. Most people would be like, oh, well, but, I was always one of those that, unlike a lot of the guys, I took class at 7 a.m. in the morning. So by the time 9:30 rolled around, I had all my classes out of the way. So even though I was a pitcher, I was there hitting, I was there fielding, and, it was kind of funny because I never wanted to lose those skills. So even though I had 15 minutes, I was ready to go. I mean, and at that time, I had a little bit like, I'm going to show people this is what I'm supposed to do. And I ended up having a breakout game against Manatee Community College, who was a powerhouse then.
Powerhouse.
And,
National powerhouse.
We ended up beating them, and they got so mad that game. We were playing them in a doubleheader. They 10-run rules the next game.
Yeah.
But I don't want to sit here and say they weren't ready. I threw a phenomenal game. I mean, I gave up 3 hits in 7 innings against them, and they were a powerhouse. So,
well, I remember being, and as a young coach, I'm going, what? Wait a minute. He's not even in the rotation.
Yeah. Yep.
He's not even getting work.
Yeah.
So what the heck? And I didn't, I can't remember who, I don't remember who the player was that missed curfew, but it kind of forced the hand. But I didn't think it would be good to you. I thought it was going to be, okay, fine, we're going to bump the start.
Yeah.
So we're just going to adjust the rotation. But he pulled you in. It's like, holy crap. I was nervous.
Yeah.
Because it's like, that's an elbow. That's an early elbow, by the way.
Absolutely.
That's not a fully matured elbow. That's an early, and you shoved.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, it was a blessing. It got me on the page and got me in the rotation, got me throwing.
Yeah.
And had a very good season that year, going 6-2. Had a great season. Really should have been 7. Really should have been undefeated. We had a bad game against Gulf Coast where through 6 innings we made 8 errors, which was unlikely for our team because we could execute. So, as a pitcher, the most frustrating thing is you come out starting over at Gulf Coast and you throw a good game, a 6-hitter, and you get drummed because we have 8 errors.
Right.
And you're like, what happened here?
What happened here?
And a lot of the guys on the team, tell you, hey, I'm sorry I let you down. I mean, what do you say? I mean, I remember a story you talk about Fuller, where he punched a guy in the face for that. And I don't say violence on this thing, but, I was like, that's how Fuller was, man.
College is a little different, though.
Certainly
back then.
Back then, and nowadays, you get arrested for stuff like that.
Right, that's assault.
Yeah, you can't be encouraging that. So.
But it's the accountability, though. In college, there's not a lot of room for error.
No.
You got to go.
No.
You're here to win.
No.
Is there some rah-rah? Absolutely, there's going to be rah-rah. But you earn all of that. And everywhere that you went, you earned. And you experienced real adversity, significant adversity. And again, sword of soaring, this threads the whole theme. It's coming. Adversity is coming. You don't know when it's going to happen.
Oh, okay.
For you, it happened, you didn't do anything wrong. The adversity that you experienced was put on you by somebody else that shouldn't have been there. Coach McLeod should not have dropped your slot. There was no reason to do that.
Right.
But that's what happened.
Yeah.
It's part of what we do. It's a danger of what we do. But that sets you back. But it sets you back in a way you came out on the other end. For many, they go somewhere else. Why did you decide to stay?
I watched, we didn't have a whole lot of money. I mean, like I said, I'm from a small town in Charleston, West Virginia, right outside Malden. It's still got a flashing light. I grew up in a holler, but then, we moved down here when I was little. I watched my mom work 3 jobs so I could play sports. Like anything else, my mom made a casserole on Monday. You ate it all day during the week. That's why I hate leftovers today. Now, what mom's cooking, it's just, I don't have to eat leftovers anymore. You wore the same clothes. You got the hand-me-down stuff. And at the end of the day, I've worked real hard and I've spent some money on myself. I mean, but I grew up humble. I was taught to be humble. I was always taught to, let the scoreboard do the talking for you. Just go out there and let the way you play.
But you had a chance to leave, right?
Yeah, I had a chance to leave. I mean, I had a chance to go, and over a personality conflict with Coach, he kept me there. I had an opportunity to go to Florida and play after my freshman year at TCC, and I can sit here and look back and say it was all him, but just things were different then. Now you got cell phones and portals and internet, and they did. If you got a letter, I was so impressed that I got handwritten letters from Tennessee and all these powerhouse schools. Florida State wrote me one on a typewriter with gold raised foil. I mean, and I coveted that first letter from Jamie Shute because it was Florida State and it was typed and it was just nothing like anything else. You know, I mean, when you got these schools, Vanderbilt, Florida, all these schools reaching out to you, Santa Fe, I mean, Miami, UCF. I mean, that's nice. I mean, I'd run home, get off work, you know, get out of school and go home and check my mailbox to see what was in there.
Right.
You know, that's just, I mean, it's just.
It is cool.
It's a cool thing.
It is very cool.
You know,
the work is paying off and now doors are opening. That's an amazing feeling. But you stayed to finish out. That was a little bit of financial thing too?
Well, I stayed. I mean, what happened was I got frustrated after my first year, and I was going to go, and I missed the signing date. And, you know, if I look back, it was a little bit, I would say it was a little bit me and a little bit of Coach McLeod. It was a little bit of, you know, an 18-year-old maybe having an ego, maybe being immature, maybe him not letting me go. You know, I was wanting to go do something else. You know, I was wanting to move on to something else, and I was unhappy. I was unhappy because I had got hurt. I was unhappy because I didn't feel like I was getting the one-on-one attention, or even, it didn't have to be one-on-one, but the attention as a pitcher that I was getting. And, you know, it was nice to have a legitimate pitching coach recruit you. I was heavily recruited by the University of New Orleans. I mean, just guys who were pitchers that wanted you to be there and tell you that they could elevate your game to where you should be at. And then to not have that opportunity, and I was told a couple times by coaches that they were told I had an attitude issue or an attitude problem, and when I knew that really wasn't it. You know, I mean, like a lot of people, I got frustrated, immature, and I had a backup. I always wanted to be a Florida Highway Patrol trooper, and I made a bad decision. I packed things in and quit, and became a trooper.
And you, now, did you go to the Law Enforcement Academy immediately after us?
I was a trooper. I played with a guy named David Kelly, who his father was a major with the Highway Patrol.
Yeah. And
we played Babe Ruth ball. We played college ball together. And his dad was a local troop commander. Of course, he knew me. He had a liking to me because of playing ball with his son. And I just went and sat down with him. And he asked me a lot of questions. And he just said, you know, I'll support you and I'll help you get in as long as your mom.
As long as
your mom says it's okay. And we go back to mom.
Don't cross Brandon's mom.
Yeah, we go back. Yeah, we go back to mom. We go back to mom, and I remember mom calling Major Kelly at the time and saying, "Hey," and my mom says, "Hey, I want him to go back to school. He's made me a promise that he'll go back and get his degree, even if he goes on the Highway Patrol." And at that time, I just bullheaded, and I just wanted to be a trooper.
Okay.
And I gave up. If I look back, if I was really, really, truly had to do over again, and you can't do things over in life, I would have sucked it up and stayed, and then went on and played at a 4-year school, and then played my 3 years, and, you know, worked my way back. And I'm sure I would have got an opportunity after that to play somewhere else.
You're right, though. Back then it was very, very different. Now there are fewer things that can be in your way. Mm-hmm. And the ability for players to move around, I think a little bit overcorrective how we've done it, but it was really tough at that time. Your first decision, that's kind of your decision. And, you know, coaches get fired, coaches move. Look, we pull back the drapes. Coaches will lie. They will lie to you. Oh, I want to play baseball in college. I get kids asking me this all the time. It's like, be real careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Because you will get it. And you won't get it the way you think you're going to get it.
No.
Because they do this for a living. They win for a living. Yeah. And you're always being recruited over. You're never safe, ever. You have the best year of your life, you're All-American. They're either finding someone better than you or they're finding someone to replace you. It moves fast, and you got 5 years to play for, and you're done. So when we were playing, you had to make the first decision. That's the one you needed to work out. Because the do-overs were hard. We sat down with Brandon Reichert, and, you know, he didn't get his release.
Yeah.
That's when you had to sign releases.
Yeah.
Went to Mercer. Yeah. And he had to sit out a year, so he only played 1 year at FSU. That time has certainly changed. But I want to jump on this for a second here. Yeah. You went 18 years with the Highway Patrol, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a little bit longer than that. But yeah,
okay.
Pretty much,
so you did. That was your career. You careered Highway Patrol. Now you've got some accolades in there too. In 2016, you were a Medal of Valor recipient.
Yeah.
With a life-saving award. You were also in 22, not long ago, you were Law Enforcement Officer of the Year of the City of Bunnell.
I was, yeah.
I want to brag on you a little bit here. Let's talk about 2016 FHP Medal of Valor Life Saving Award. What was that?
Well, I mean, when I came on the patrol, I went to Fort Myers, and it was a phenomenal, as a 21-year-old getting on the highway patrol and working in a profession that, to me, I had opportunities to stay here, going with the Tallahassee Police Department, Leon County Sheriff's Office, but there was just something about the patrol, the way they carried themselves. I went on a couple ride-alongs, and it was just nothing like any other experience. The way people looked at the patrol and the way they were thought of in the public, and I wanted to be a trooper. It's thought of as being the best of the best of the best. And I'm a servant leader. I love to help people. So, in doing that, I watched my father do it, and I wanted to go into something where I wanted to give and give back. And so I went on the highway patrol and I worked in Fort Myers. Was really the first time away from home. Nothing negative about home, but enjoyed it, loved it. The pay wasn't great, but at the end of the day, when I paid all the bills, I had $600 left over, and I thought I was rich. Yeah. Minimum wage was $3.25 at the time, and making that kind of money, I never made that money. And I just really enjoyed it. I had the opportunity to come back to Tallahassee and train and be a field training officer for a lot of the new troopers coming on. And I was a young trooper myself. I only had 3 years on. And I got into working some task force and was the recipient of a couple other awards due to my hard work and my efforts. And, I was in a situation where a trooper almost got ran over, and I pulled him out of the road. It involved a pursuit with a guy who was a career felon. He ended up crashing and getting trapped in the car, and the car engulfed in flames. And I actually went into the car while the car was still on fire. It had blew up while I was in there. I was very blessed to not get hurt, saved both of their lives, and as a result of that, I was offered the Medal of Valor and Life Saving Award.
You were in pursuit. He wrecked.
Correct.
Car, boom. You're in there as the car is exploding, getting out a career felon.
Yes.
That you were in pursuit of.
Yeah.
Saving his life.
With multiple warrants, and was a known fugitive. Of course, I didn't know that at the time. I mean, he tried to run another trooper over, of course, when we were working a speed enforcement detail, and that endured the pursuit. It was authorized, and at the end of the day, you have a duty to protect, regardless what the issue is.
Regardless what the issue is, right?
Protect, and I mean, some people would have not put themselves in that type of situation with the car on fire to the magnitude it was. I couldn't see inside the car. The crush damage to the car kept it from being you getting inside. But you always hear about things when your adrenaline kicks in and you're stronger than what you normally are. And I was in a lot better shape then than I am now, of course, like most of us. Almost 50 now. I was 22, 23. And, I was blessed to come out of that unscathed and save 2 lives and saved a guy's life that 2 months later, while waiting for sentencing for mine, he almost does the same thing with the police department and has back-to-back sentences for the same stuff.
Well, that's just the nature of the job, though.
It's just the nature of the job.
That's just how that works. If you don't want to do that, then don't do this.
Don't do that, yeah. I mean,
do something else.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people lose their lives in the line of duty, but at the end of the day, you got to do it for something for the greater good. I mean, if you get into law enforcement for any other reason than to serve and protect, then you're getting into it for the wrong reasons. I mean,
right, you're not cut out for it.
It's not a job just to get in that, hey, I need a job. I mean, it's long hours, enduring. It's a grind. It's a career. It's tough.
Well, and for you, as I remember, and it was really good that I had the time to drive up because I'm reflecting, and we've had many conversations, but you leave the program and I go this way and you go that way, and we kind of lost touch to a certain degree. And I'm trying to remember, you have always had a very high attention to detail. Does that come from family?
Look, I'm a known here for attention to detail. I'm told that I see things that other people don't, that they walk past. I would say it has to do a lot with the way I was raised. I mean, this is not a negative note towards my mom, but she ran a boot camp at the house. Yeah. And we didn't get allowance, but we had tons of chores. And like she said, I'm not putting a roof over your head and putting food on the table to pay you to do what you should do to take care of this place. My parents were divorced, and man, when she came home, she inspected the house like it was the military. I mean, if you had to vacuum the floor, you better vacuum the floor. And if it wasn't done right, you're vacuuming again. At 10 and 12, I was washing my clothes, washing dishes, vacuuming the floor. So when I got to be on my own, it was easy. You know, I remember living in the dorms over at what was called Eagle View with the guys when we were on scholarship and had 3 other guys. I mean, these guys wouldn't make their bed for 2 weeks, and every day before I went to class at 7, my bed's made, folded, and my roommate was from Louisiana, a guy named Todd Cutchins and Mike Gauger and Juan Padilla, who those are some big names, you know.
I interviewed Juan.
Juan played for the Mets,
yeah.
I
He
mean,
had 6 years in the big leagues.
You know, these guys didn't make their bed, didn't do anything, didn't clean the bathroom, and they're laughing because they come home when I got the bathroom cleaned, and you know, they're like, what are you doing? You're like we love this, you know.
Right,
I mean,
right,
I'm
right.
like, yeah, cooking dinner, you know, and they're like, man, you know, what's up with you? And I'm like, no, man, I just take care of myself.
Right.
You know, so I owe it back to my mom. I mean, I would say I got the attention to detail from her and the way she is. I mean, she's very much Johnny on the spot, and I stayed with it. It's made me successful. I'm very blessed.
Well, it served you as an athlete, because I
Absolutely.
remember that there was never a time where you had to look to find Brandon. Never.
No.
No, in fact, you were always the first third. So you have groups of players. If you have enough players, you're early third, you're on time third, and you're right at it third.
Yeah.
And you were always in that first group. And you were put together, you were wired tight, boiled ham, hot or cold, ready to go.
Yeah.
Let's go. You never had to worry about you. So that was one of the things, certainly for me, that was impressive, which creates that gravity around you. You took that then through your athletic career into law enforcement. That had to serve you well, that attention to detail.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when everything you do is detail, you got to be a detail-oriented person. I mean, it is one of my strengths, from writing reports to processing a scene to gathering evidence to just anything. And I would say pitching did that a lot for me too. You know, as a pitcher, you really need to be able to dissect the detail of the way somebody's standing, whether they're leaning back, opened up, where you're throwing the ball. I mean, it seems like now when I watch the game, and I'm speaking because I haven't been there a whole lot, as everybody just cares about throwing hard. Well, I never really had to learn how to pitch till when I got hurt, because even back then I threw harder than most people did, and even people here in town, because it was so hard. But then when you get hurt and you lose the velocity, you got to learn to pitch and you got to learn to detail. And I wish I'd have paid attention to guys like Greg Maddux, guys like that who didn't throw really, really hard, but had, you know, this much movement on their pitches and made a career off of detail. I mean, I've watched some interviews now, which you couldn't have seen them back then, where Maddux is telling the coach, the head coach, Bobby Cox and them, that he's going to throw this pitch here, that this guy's going to, you know, foul out to Chipper Jones at third base, and you're like, and it happens, and they're like, how does he even?
Right.
I mean, he's just a professor, you know, and I wish I could go back and talk to that guy and be a student of the game and been more of a pitcher instead of a thrower. And I think now with the game, and I could be speaking out of ignorance and out of term, as it just appears to me as a fan and watching that it's just about the throwing.
It is. There's no doubt about that. And I just got off a podcast with Dr. Zerminski at UF, who looks to be the next voice. You know, you had Dr. Job,
Right.
who did the Tommy John surgery. Then you had Dr. Andrews, who Dr. Andrews was the guy. Dr. Zerminski seems to be that next voice in it, and he was actually a college player as well, and we talked a lot about that. The game has changed, and I'm not going to use the word evolved. Mm-hmm. The game has changed.
Yeah.
And I'm watching these guys run up counts and not take care of their pitch count, and they're behind in their pitch cluster and things like that. I'm going, that's just going to take innings off the end. You know what I mean? There's only so many you have in the time. But what you're talking about is SA, that's situational awareness, being aware. So as a catcher, and a lot of this has been removed from catchers as well, but as a catcher, I could win because I had situational awareness. I knew all of that. I could feel that guy digging in. I could feel that guy cheat his toe. And that's the way I teach hitters too. It's like, you know, because the catchers now don't pay attention to much of that stuff. Dude, for as limited as ability that I had to pay attention to that stuff. I would have loved to have been in a battery with you.
Yeah.
I would have loved to be your catcher and to be able to do that, because for me, baseball is chess. It's not checkers. It looks a little more like checkers now, but to me it's chess. And when you get to college, I mean, you threw hard, but you also threw heavy. So catching you, and I've had to catch all the guys in the bullpens, and because you jump in there and do stuff. Catching your baseball was like trying to catch a bowling ball. It had so much force behind it, and you were an 88 to 90 guy with that grotesque breaking ball. And some guys that are 92, 93, I could catch barehanded. It felt like I was catching a bowling ball. You threw so heavy, and that's just the production of force you had behind it. So you're 88 to 90, if you got it in on somebody, that was a 92, 93. Because it was handled.
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching guys, I brought them up. My roommate, Todd Cutchins, was left-handed and went to LSU before he came to play with us. And then I'd watch a guy like Mike Davis throw, and Mike Davis threw mid-90s. Yeah. But, man, when you hit it a ton. Todd threw lower 90s, but when you hit it, man, it was like
it didn't go anywhere.
It was like hitting a mailbox with a bat.
Right. I talked to Mike a little while ago, and he actually went to pitch at FSU, and then Cutchins, went on and did great things. But yeah, you guys had just that brick. Good God Almighty, it's hard to catch, and that situational awareness. If you had that, I'm not going to put it that way. That situational awareness you had when you were a kid. You just didn't need to use it.
Yeah.
Because you could just overpower them.
Yeah.
As a cop, though, that's got to pay. I mean, you have to have your radar on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was very blessed. I mean, in my time with the Highway 12, rose to the rank of major. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people who don't even get out to even be past the rank of corporal to a sergeant. And even after that, and then getting into the automotive world, and then going back into law enforcement, having a chance to rebuild a police department that was struggling. That's what happened in Bunnell, and go through that, and then come back into the automotive world. It's all been a lot of hard work and attention to detail. When you're rebuilding things and you're looking at players and coaching them, I mean, for me, coaching got to be stressful, and I'll tell you why, because it's just a different type of player. As a player, for me, I was seeking a mentor, seeking a coach, wanting them to make me better. I mean, and I'm not saying all, but as I watch games, it's tough to talk to these players now because they feel like they already know everything.
Well, the internet has some blame on that one too, certainly.
Yeah.
Luckily, I'm in a position now where the guys that come work with me, we have that conversation very early.
Yeah. Very
early. Look, you're going to do all the heavy lifting. And if you've got all the answers, I'm not your guy.
Not your guy.
I'm not your guy. You go to the internet.
Yeah.
Because we'll argue, we'll fight, and that's not a problem. Then we'll still hug, but you got to be here to compete. You got to be here to get better. You got to be here to learn, and we're going to have dialogue. If something ain't right, we're going to talk about it. I don't need a yes or no sir guy that's going to end up.
Well, I mean, you talk about things. I'm sitting here kind of laughing because I'm thinking about something back. We got to play an adult league game out of fun against each other, and you were catching, I was hitting, and of course, heck, I was happy.
You and I played?
Yeah. You were playing the opposite team, and we were playing. I played for Meeks at the time, and you were playing with Swindle and those guys at that time, and you were catching actually Swindle. And I mean, it's a long time ago, buddy. A long time ago, right?
Alan Swindle, that boy.
Yeah. That's a different animal.
That's a different animal right there.
So I remember, man, watching this guy throw, and he was the pitching coach at Leon when I was at Lincoln. We were rival schools, and man, I remember the first time he released that left-handed from about right here, and I was like, holy smokes! I mean, and I'd faced some guys who threw some serious gas.
Well, and he was at that. He's older than I am. I'm 55. He was 40.
Yeah, easy, and still.
And you're right. It came from that low 3/4. Now his story. He was a left-handed pitcher, freak athlete, Clewiston, Florida, and he got caught in the system, and never got to get. I think he got up with Boston, but not all the way up. He pitched at FSU, and he got caught in the system, and things didn't work out for him.
Yeah.
But his stuff, it was like catching a brick, and it came from, you couldn't see it.
Yeah.
and we're gonna get back to your story. I remember catching him the first time, and he was coaching. He was a grown man.
Yeah, grown man. Yeah.
And I'm back there, and he is starting to twitch and tweak, and snot's coming out, and he's getting into like, holy crap, dude.
Yeah.
And this is adult league. I'm like, we're gonna we're going to go to Hooters later.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not
yeah.
it's flaming, and he is getting after it. It's like, wow, that guy. But I didn't know we ever.
Yeah. So I remember, man, I come up there and I'm saying hey to you, you know, and you look at me and you go, hey, we're not friends. We'll talk after the game, you know. And I'm like, what the heck, you know?
I said that to you?
Yeah. But you were so competitive too. That's the funny thing about it.
Yeah, a little bit.
You know, like we're playing against each other. We're not friends.
Yeah,
you know, we'll talk after the game. We'll be friends after the game. So, you know, I'd always thought about that. You know, even as we got along, I'm like, you know, man, guys who are competitive tend to gravitate to each other.
Yeah.
You know, even after this time as we're sitting down, you know, we're both. Even though we both can't play the game, we're just as competitive as we used to be, you know, and that's what draws us together is the competitiveness and the bond of being competitive, you know, as you're talking, you know, you were talking about detail and situational awareness, you know, it has a lot to do with competing. You know, you want to win. I mean, you know, and what I wanted more than anything as a coach, which is where I struggled, is I wanted to pass that on to players and give them that competitive edge and give them, you know, even a couple of times I said, you know, if you would just listen to me. You know, I can't do the job anymore. I can't pitch. I mean, I can pitch, but I'm not effective. You know, I'm a 40-year-old, you know.
Yeah.
If you would just listen, you'll win.
Right.
But you got to do the work. You got to put the work in. You got to do everything. I'm not the one that's going to do it for you.
Yeah, you can't check the box.
Yeah. Or, you know how many pitchers I've thrown against and how many pitches I've called, yet you want to throw your own pitch somewhere? Would you just throw it where I'm telling you and you're going to win?
Yeah.
Because I sat up last night studying everybody when you were playing on your video games. You know, and I think for me, that was probably one of my most frustrating things coaching is I'm like, you know, at this time, this guy does this. I got books on this same hitter, and then you just want to say, hey, no, coach, I'm going to throw him a fastball. Okay, all right, go ahead.
Yeah. No, it's almost like that Bull Durham thing. I want to announce my authority with it. What?
Yeah.
And it is.
Yeah, you reminded me of Crash Davis. I always used to laugh about that.
When that movie came out, it was speaking directly to me.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. I'm the guy in the back of the bus that's got a book, and everybody else is kind of crashed out doing their thing. And I enjoy the analytical part. That now they call it sabermetrics, but we've done sabermetrics for decades.
Just call it different things.
I had books on everybody, and I love that chess cerebral kind of part of it. And then you know how you play it out and change the game plan and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned, you know, playing chess, not checkers. I mean, I kind of live my life like that, you know. Everything we do has to be a strategic move because there's always a consequence to it. You know, when you say the word consequence, people think of that as a negative undertone. You know, I think of consequence as just a missed opportunity, you know, good or bad. You know, I mean, you can learn from bad opportunities and, you know, we succeed from good ones.
Yeah.
You know, but at the end of the day, a consequence is just a missed opportunity. You know, and when you tell somebody you got to pay the consequences and you do all that, I mean, they take it as it being negative, but really it's just a missed opportunity.
Well, and they do get a little bit. That's when the emotional maturity has to kind of kick in a little bit, you know, and you got to grow up a little bit as a kid into a man, and that's when you have to take the advice and say, okay, well, let's do this. I'm gonna do what coach is telling me to do, but then you got to have the bravery to talk about it.
Yeah.
Coach, I don't think that was a success. Or, no, that did work. Let's keep doing that. Instead of, you know, being the kid throwing a tantrum and not listening to the coach. You know, I see that at parks all the time. And look, good programs. And I've got to walk to another field.
No.
I'm not listening to that. You know, not that I've got all the answers, not that you have all the answers, but I require dialogue. You have to be grown up enough. We have to talk. We have to have an exchange. If you don't agree, I need to know about it. If I don't agree, we're going to talk about it and go from there. And the consequence, we're going to find out what that's going to be. At the end of the day, we have to play again tomorrow.
Well, and you talked about, you know, TCC and what happened there. You know, there were some things that happened that, you know, ended up being consequences for me making my decision, you know. I mean, something as simple as, you know, I mean, when I look back on it now, I mean, I don't think it was personal. You know, Coach hit me in the face with a Coke can one time sitting in the dugout. I think you were there for that incident.
I was 10 feet away. We can go ahead and tell that story. That was, and
they drank Diet Coke back then, you know.
Man,
so,
I tell you what,
you know.
and we were talking about this, and Skylar's back behind the camera. She heard this story down there.
Yeah.
Was talking about it with some of the guys. It was different back then.
It was different.
It was different back then. And this is in the 90s. I played to the program. I was coaching there. I coached there a long time. And he was very, very difficult. And again, through this podcast, you're going to have bosses you don't like.
Yeah.
You're going to have coaches you don't get along with. You're going to have to either figure out a way through it, around it, whatever. You're going to have to figure it out. So the setbacks, the testing, the trials may not be injury.
Yeah.
It may be personality. And
exactly.
This is a personality conflict. So this was, you'll have to help me with this one because I was trying to draw it up back then. I remember, I don't remember quite what set it up.
Yeah.
What I remember is this. I'm at this end of the dugout, the hitter end of the dugout, because I've got all the books and we're working. You're at that end of the dugout on the pitching book. That's the book that's going on now. My book is how we're dealing here. And something happened. Had you thrown the day before?
No, I hadn't thrown at all. I was just, usually what happened was if you had thrown, that's why you're saying that, you kept the book because you were resting and somebody was on a suspension and I just ended up being odd man out and was voluntold to keep the book.
Right, which I have to have that book accurate.
Yeah, you got to have it accurate.
It's a terrible job.
And it might have been my attention to detail, which is why I was voluntold. So.
You could trust that Brandon was going to do it right.
Do it.
But we were struggling, and he was in a tirade.
He was in a tirade, yeah.
He was in a tirade, which was a very common occurrence
at
that time. And again, he was a very young coach, and he had growing to do. But he hit, so the bench is back here. Then there's stairs, and then it goes up to the field. You were on the stairs, had a towel, had the book out there, and he hit or threw a Coke. I'm sure he did not mean to do this. I think he just meant to send it to the other dugout. But it hit you in the face.
It did. It was full, too.
A full can of Coke.
About 6 feet away.
And hit you in the face.
Yeah.
And Coach Hogan is right there. Coach Fuller's there. I'm here. And it was like, oh. And he froze, too.
Yeah.
You did not.
No, I didn't.
You went immediately red. You went into defense mode.
Yeah.
And you were coming.
Well, I don't know about defense. I went more into attack mode.
You went into attack mode. That's right. You were defending yourself.
Yeah.
But the wolf came out. The monster came out. That competitor that we talked about.
Yeah.
And be careful which competitor you're getting.
Yeah,
is it the competitor that competes or is it the competitor that attacks?
Yeah.
And you were coming.
Well, like you said, at 18, I was very much what looked like a man at that time.
You were ready.
So,
And I don't know who broke it up or anything like that, but I'm pretty sure I think I shoved Mac the other way. And I forget kind of what happened after that because I was just dumbfounded. I'd never seen anything like that. They were in freaking college, and this guy gets hit with a Coke. And are you kidding me? This is I've never seen any crap like this before. Well, it all ended up, I'm not going to say it was fine. It was not fine after that. But did he ever apologize?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it had a tribute to, I had got hurt, so I put most of the blame on him for that, for what happened, the things we previously talked about, changing the arm slot, not preparing me for what it was, because when I was recruited, things were pitched way different, a lot of things than when you get there.
Which happens.
Yeah. And,
this is real, man. We're pulling the curtain back.
And what I liked about TCC at the time is that a lot of the facilities, especially for pitching, was indoor. Yeah. That was state of the art at that time. I mean, even FSU didn't even have that.
No, they came to us.
Yeah, they would come over to us, and when it rained, and they would use our facilities. Yeah. I mean, which was kind of like, wow. But, the difference there is they hit white balls and clean uniforms. And, I remember getting my uniform, and I'm pulling it apart, and it's stuck together. And I'm like, man, I had better stuff in high school. What's going on here?
Yeah, it was pretty challenging.
Yeah, I mean, it was challenging. And then, to be hurt and then never really talk about that, never get through it, never, and then come out there and work and rehab and come back early to have a very good outing the first game of the year, throwing 1 inning. I threw to 3 batters, had 2 strikeouts and a ground out. Felt a little stiff. The feedback I got from Coach Hogan at the time was like, man, you look great. You just look a little tight. And I said, yeah, I feel tight, but I feel great. I feel like I can compete. I'm back to normal. No, my velocity's not there, but I had learned to throw and pitch. Right. I had learned to hit the spots. And I felt like I was going to be 100 times greater pitcher instead of in high school blowing it by people, because that's really what you had, and
well, the college hitters are different.
Yeah, and
especially in this conference.
Absolutely, and there's some players here, and I had learned a change, and I had learned a good slider, and I had very much command of 4 pitches because I had learned to pitch. And, to sit down there and do well and watch guys struggle, and then you get past. And I think that just when that incident happened, man, that was the straw that broke the camel's back for me, because I was done. But at that time, if I had to do back all over again, you could only swallow so much crow. And
it don't matter how you fix crow don't taste good.
No, it never tastes good, but you got to grow from it. Every tragic thing that's happened from me, I've tried to make a positive experience and grow. And what's happened here is the fact that, he did come up and he did apologize with Coach Hogan a couple of days later. It was one of those, like, leave him alone. I had so much respect for Hogan and especially Coach Bill Fuller that, when Hogan's put his hand up, I just, it changes things.
It does. It does. And Hogue was a glue that kind of held that together.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely.
Fuller as well, but more so Hogan.
Yeah.
The gravity of his worth to all of us cannot be understated.
Yeah.
He is the best coach I've ever. Well, him and Fred Hatfield. Fred was his mentor, who's long passed. Yeah. But I've never been around a guy that is as good as him. And the coaching part is only about 10. The skills part's about 10% of what we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
People have a misunderstanding about the skills.
Yeah. You'll laugh about this. You'll laugh about this. He had a skill set. I've never seen a guy smoke a carton of cigarettes in a dugout. Nobody knew. I mean, he had a way about himself.
He would palm it, put it behind him, and
I mean, but as far as coaching, I mean, I have never heard players ever say anything negative. I mean, everybody thinks he walks on water, and I'd have to agree with that. I mean, just a phenomenal, because he was, to me, he was a man's man, a player's coach.
Well, it transcends everything he talked about. Was something you knew is going to help you play baseball, and it'll be help. And look, you're not going to you're not going to out knowledge him on the baseball field.
Absolutely not.
There's nobody that will do that. Yeah. But then it's all those little 30-second conversations. That's where I learned that from him. He said, you got to stop talking. You're talking too much. It's 30 seconds in BP. It's in the hallway. It's here. That's when the magic happens. Those little interactions, those little moments, and the message that you're sending, not with the words you're saying, but what are they receiving? What message are you sending to him? He has a gift that may be unteachable in that capacity. Mm-hmm. Watching you move around here like I did a little bit today, you lean in that direction. No, you have the message that you send to people beyond the words is impressive. And just, again, watching you kind of move around. You mentioned Bunnell. You left Highway Patrol to go to, were you recruited to go to the City of Bunnell?
Actually, when I left the Highway Patrol, I came here.
I
came back here to work, and I came here just with intentions of being here just a short period of time. And at that time, the dealership was a different name. Mr. Boulware was not the majority owner. He ended up buying the dealership out, or majority of the shares from Les Acres, and he became the majority owner. And I didn't have really a relationship, even though I knew Mr. Boulware. I didn't have a relationship with him really at that time. And I had got a phone call one day and got an opportunity from a city manager that I had worked a lot of rural summits in. And in counties like Gaston County that are rural and they have challenges. And at that time, he had a police department that was really, it was struggling. Budget-wise, facility-wise, funding-wise, staffing. And I had got an opportunity to come back to law enforcement and reinvent a department. And I saw it as a challenge and an opportunity. You talk about success stories, to do something great, to do a greater good. And although I'm not someone who sits in church every Sunday, I'm faith-based and I'm spiritual, and I did a lot of praying about it. And I kept having this one thing, not like a guy I played with that we all know, God bless his soul, Ryan Friel, who passed away, as he used to always hear the voice talking to him. No, it wasn't the voice that Ryan was saying he was hearing, but it was just, I felt like my heart weighing heavy on me to just go help him out. And I went down there and absolutely loved it. Worked a lot of hours. I worked 3 weeks straight, took a week off, came home. I had got married right before that, a couple years before that, my first marriage. My wife's from Central Florida. And I just went down there and just dove into that. And the good thing about the patrol and the positions I had is I had went through some command schools. And I was taught how to take a department and build it from ground up. And I just went through all these old manuals and started pulling things out and putting stuff together and getting grants and working on policies and restructuring things. And we rebuilt that police department. When I made a decision to come back to the dealership, I was gracious. Mr. Boulware and a guy named Frank Brothers, who's been a mentor to me here in the automotive business, asked me to come back. And I did the same thing. I prayed about it. And something told me in my heart that I had taken the place as far as it could, left them in good hands. I got a friend of mine to become the police chief there, who's still there, and he's carried on with everything that I built. And I came back here, and I've been here ever since.
Well, the role was chief?
Yeah, I was a police chief.
You're the police chief, okay.
Police chief.
So if you're going to take over a department, you're the head coach.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And it all falls on you.
Well, you're in
So
a police
you're
department
in
like
front of the camera and all that stuff.
Yeah, buddy, in a police department like that, you're head coach, you're the head janitor, you're the head of everything. I mean, they're 20-person police department. In a major city, a lot of people don't realize Bunnell's the second largest city in the state of Florida, landmass-wise.
Really?
Yeah, it's a huge, so much area for room for growth. Very strong sheriff there, Rick Staley. Flagler Beach is right there, so you have a lot of different areas. Palm Coast is right there on top of Bunnell, which is really outgrown. So, a lot of stuff was closing in on Bunnell, and it needed to learn to grow and expand. And they had a very good, strong commission, strong mayor there, the Vice Mayor Rogers, the mayor, Miss Robinson, the city manager there, Dr. Jackson. It was a great place. I loved it.
Wow, so you're building that. That's a college baseball program. That's what that is.
Absolutely.
So you got these recruits you're bringing in. We call them the same thing, recruits.
We did.
You've got guys. You get for colleges. You're gonna have board of regents and boards, and you have to report to them.
Yep.
And you mentioned manuals and books. That's your scout book. Those are your data.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're having to, ground up.
Yeah, and it comes back to competitive, wanting to win. A lot of people would have folded and said, "Hey, this is just too much work." But when you have that competitive and winning mentality, you can't quit.
It's hard. You can't. It's hard to sleep.
Yeah, and I still have that here. I'm told you want to win more and you want to get paid, but you have to win the right way. And that's what a lot of people don't understand is you even in something like this, perception's reality. We put cameras in this place. We did everything we can to win and to coach, to train, hold people accountable.
It never stops.
It never stops.
Never stops. That's the thing that people, when I talk to, and I get to talk to people in business in a lot, and they talk about training, and sometimes what happens is they'll have a topic they train on, they never touch it again. Training is an ongoing thing.
Yeah, and you mentioned something that was real nice. You talked about slow burst of conversations. I call it micro training.
Yeah.
You can lose people because training's too long.
Oh.
And I tell people, if you'll train 18 minutes or study on it a day on something specific, you're better than 90% of the population to do it. If I threw a football 18 minutes a day, no, I'm not going to be Tom Brady, but I'll be better than 90% of the people in my age group throwing the football. It's proficiency. It's everything we do. It's practice. It's coaching. But, a lot of times, though, you can train on things, and this, being an athlete and a coach, is you got to train the right way, though. You can train the wrong way and you don't get anywhere.
Then you go the wrong direction.
You go the wrong direction,
right.
Or you get hurt, or you do something like that. So, training the right way.
And that's that process. That's athlete process. Yeah. That athlete process for you, which you were very good at, served you in the highway patrol. Because that's a very process-oriented. And then it served you at Bunnell, correct? And it's serving you again, right? So threading this whole thing together, the athlete never dies. He just changed his position.
The competitor never dies. The competition level, the will to win, the desire. It would be like taking a lion and putting it in a cage. it's going to be docile, but when you let it out, it's going to bite you.
Yeah, we're going to figure out a different way to compete.
Yeah, you're going to figure out a different way to compete, and it's life is. If it wasn't for sports, I can tell you this, I wouldn't be where I was at. Sports taught me so much.
Yeah.
I don't mind losing. I just don't like to get beat, if that makes sense.
Look, losing is a part of the whole thing, but it's amazing when you talk to folks that competed at a high level. They don't remember many of the wins, but there's always like 3 losses.
Absolutely.
That I remember what it smells like. Yeah. That is so like, damn, that one that eats me up. That one eats me up. And that's the one where you got beat or you something happened where it was under your control. If you give one up, you give one up. That is what it is. You're going to take some losses. You're going to learn. You're going to move. You're going to go. And I think sports, especially as it is a testament to life, again, soar to soaring, you've had some tremendous setbacks in life. You've used those. You've molded yourself, that resiliency through that process, that competitiveness. It threads everything that you do. And again, it kind of goes back to the aura, the gravity of kind of, who you are and what you do. Yeah. The resilience that you have is really the cool thing too. And again, I'm gushing on you a little bit too. You were always unflappable. You know what I mean? You can't be rattled.
Yeah, I mean,
you can't be, what I mean? It's like you're not a super rah-rah guy, but you're also not a down-dump guy. No. You're just a grinder, man.
Yeah.
You just grind.
Yeah, I mean, and I still grind. I mean, I tell people, and I tell the young guys and young gals here, if you just work hard and you don't got to be great at one thing, just be good at a couple things, but be consistently good.
Yeah.
And grind and work and put it all on the table and go out there and just compete, because at the end of the day, it's already predetermined what's going to happen. We can't control that, but the grind is real, man. You see it, and the competitive is real. And guys I played ball with, and coaching their kids was weird for me. Like at NFC, and I'm like, man, I played with his dad, and he wasn't even born, or I saw him and they came up to your knee, and then now you're coaching them. And I had an opportunity to coach my cousin's son. And it was just weird. I remember when he was born, and then I'm thinking, man, I'm either really getting old or, but for him to ask you and to be able to build a bond with your family through coaching, being receptive, that's a fun thing to do.
It is. No, it's cool, and it's why I do what I do.
Well, I mean, it brought us together. I mean, I met you as a coach, and we still talk. We still have a relationship, and at the end of the day, I remember when you were coaching, you wanted to help us all. Yeah, you're kind of like our big brother who actually knew what you were talking about. It's kind of funny.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm not sure I was learning just as much as you guys did, transitioning, because it's a big jump. Coach Hogan helped me with this one. Not everybody should coach, but transitioning from a player to a coach is a lot more difficult than I thought. And that was one of the things where he pulled me aside. And again, it's not the technical stuff that he was so good at, although he is the best ever. Yeah. It's this stuff. He's like, look, you have got to stop competing against the athletes. You're not a player anymore. Mm-hmm. You're done. You're not a player anymore. Yeah, you have to stop competing against the athletes. You can't do that. Don't take BP with them. Cut that crap out. You need to get over the fact that you're not a player anymore. Yeah, so huge. Now start coaching and start developing your leadership, your mentorship. So he put it inside me. He's like, no, you need to do you. Because you can't do it that way. You can't go outside in. You got to go inside out. You got to lay down being a player. You're not that. Yeah. And of course, he goes, you weren't that good to begin with. It's like, oh, thanks.
Only a guy like Hogan would say that.
Only Hogan get away with that.
Yeah. any other guy, man, you know.
Oh, I'd be ready to fight. Yeah, but Jeff is Jeff, man.
Yeah.
Let's jump to this. Let's do some fun stuff at the end.
Yeah, sure.
Pet peeves. I'm going to give you one. I'm going to start this one. Okay. Sure. A pet peeve for me, athletically, I call it baseball litter. Baseball's laying on the field that shouldn't be laying on the field drives me insane. If it doesn't, go pick it up. Yeah. You pick it, we get it later, you know what? But littered everywhere, it makes me flipping crazy. Litter in general, but certainly on the baseball field, because that's how you turn an ankle, going back, long toss, and roll an ankle.
Absolutely.
And it drives me crazy. Pet peeves.
Listen, as a pitcher, I was very fortunate. I mean, I can go back and probably, because you remember the home runs you gave up as a pitcher. And I'm actually very fortunate, probably say, in my whole pitching career from the time T-ball on, I gave up less than 10 home runs. And I prided that. But my pet peeve is this bat flip now. As a pitcher, you hit something and whatever, man, you're catching it in the ear next time you come up,
Well, you were the alpha dog anyway.
Yeah. And you watch guys like Nolan Ryan, and I watched Ken Griffey, talk about the first time he faced Nolan Ryan and the psych out game he had with him, and it wasn't about that. It was just I wanted to compete, but yeah, for me it's the bat flip now. Just watching the game now, it takes all the fun for me, and
right.
I can't stand it.
Can't stand it.
Yeah.
How about around here? Maybe we should ask Skylar what your pet peeves are. What's a pet peeve around here? What's something that bothers you? Is there something that he says comes up often? No, not much? What do you think? No?
It's being on time.
Okay, being on time.
Being on time. I mean, my philosophy here is, man, if you're on time, you're late.
Yeah.
You need to be ready, be in your seat. You mentioned it as a player. You knew how it was. I was part of the 1/3. I was there early. I was there before everybody else. I was ready to go. Because, what I learned as a pitcher is you don't know when you're going in. Look at the opportunities I got. Things could have changed. I mean, yeah, like I told you, I have regrets that I should have just stuck it out. And I'm mature enough to be able to say, it's 50-50, and man, you just got to be ready to go. You got to be on time.
Yeah, I did a podcast with a friend of mine who runs a very successful consulting business, and he mentioned that too. And from a coach's perspective, I'll do it this way. On time, and what he mentioned was, on time shows respect for everybody that's there, which is 100% correct. Yeah. However, athletes often don't think that way. Here's how I characterize it. There is an actual practical part of on time. If the bus leaves at noon, we're going on a road trip. Bus leaves at noon. I need you there 15 minutes early, because that 15-minute window is my go, no go. That's when I have to decide I'm coming out of the office somewhere in that 50 minutes and either say load up or we're changing plans.
Yeah.
That's a last opportunity I have, and I need everybody there, because I've been on the phone for 3 hours. I'm collecting weather reports. I was on the phone at midnight, trying to get this $60,000 road trip organized.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I need everybody there. Also, you can get some good work in if you're early. That's why they call it early BP.
Yeah, missed opportunity.
Missed opportunity, right?
Consequence of not being on time.
Consequence, right,
What
exactly.
people don't realize is it takes zero talent to be on time.
It's a non-skill thing.
How many things in life can you do that take no talent?
Right. Right.
I'm here.
It will. And look, if you show up to work, I want to be on the baseball field early because I want to get there, take BP, ground ball, stuff like that.
Yeah.
If you show up to work early, I guarantee you that it'll make the day easier.
Well, we say something. You talk about being on time. Is I hit BP every day, and everybody be like, "Brannon, man, you're pitching. You ain't hitting. Why are you doing that?" Well, one opportunity, we finished practice early, didn't have a lot to do, and Coach McLeod was like, "I'm gonna let the pitchers hit. You can take 5 swings." Well, I think I kind of rubbed it in and got pissed, when my time came up, the first pitch that he threw me, I didn't swing at, and he said some stuff, a little bit. Well, the next pitch he threw me, I hit probably about 30 feet over the right field fence. And I put the bat down, and he's like, "Where are you going?" I said, "Man, I'm 1 for 1. I'm good."
I'm good. Tap me out.
So
I'm good.
I think he called me a couple things, and that was the end of it, And,
well, you knew too. He didn't throw the best BP.
Well,
he'll start running in on your hands.
Yeah, he started trying to strike you out during PP. And look, and let me say this. I talk about Coach McLeod. We've talked several times since college and things like that. So, just in all fairness, we've patched things up and.
Well, he was a young coach at the time, and it's hard.
Yeah, and he's apologized. You asked if things were done on purpose and things like that. I felt like they were, but can I truly say that?
I don't know.
Maybe not.
I have no evidence of it.
Yeah.
I certainly know that you weren't. And again, through this podcast, it happens. It happens every day in programs across the country. I'm not privy to any information. You certainly weren't the only one, and I'm sure that happens everywhere, where you just get caught in the wash. And is it on purpose? Is it not on purpose? Did he say something? Did he not say something? Nobody will know.
Well, I can say this. My mom, I went up and spoke to him one time. We were at I want to say we were at a funeral, and he and I had a very good conversation. And my mom had actually asked, I can't believe you're talking to him. And I said, I got a lot of stuff on my heart, and why not, And after our conversation, man, I felt relieved. Yeah. I had carried that, suppressed it for so long, and once it was all gone, everything was good.
Yeah.
I mean, he's come in, he's purchased a car here from us, we've talked. I mean, I don't hold any grudges against the man. I mean, I hear he's coaching ball for Ed McClay, I think now.
Yeah, he retired, and he's doing some almost middle school kind of civic kind of stuff. It's great.
Probably go watch a game and holler at him and see how he's doing.
That's right.
I mean, because
heckle him a little bit.
Yeah. Treat him like you
throw a Coke at him.
Yeah. Hit him a couple times with a
hit him with a Coke,
ice or something. But it's fun. I mean, look, you got to grow up. At the end of the day, and if you really want to mentor and be a leader of men and women, you got to learn to let things go.
Well, and you're going to get beat up.
Yeah. And life's about failing. You're going to fail more than you succeed.
Right, and it's usually the failure that gets out of your control, and it's not always injuries. Lots of times, and for you it was an injury, but it was also personal. Look, failure is failure. However it shows up, it shows up. Do's and don'ts, career advice, career killers, do's and don'ts. What are some things that you can say through your experience? Collegiate athlete, law enforcement, running a very expensive budget. Yeah. You got a lot of responsibilities. Yeah. What are some do's and don'ts, some career killers and some career enhancers maybe?
I think a lot of things is, think before you speak.
Take a pause.
A lot of times people's mouth is quicker than their brain.
That's that situational awareness.
Yeah, and even though you can apologize and maybe try to restart and rekindle things, some things you say you just can't take back.
No, once it's out, it's out.
People forgive, but they don't forget. And, in a large-scale business and even as an athlete, it's quick to lose as an athlete, to lose yourself in the moment. As a competitor and a winner and somebody that really, really wants to win and be that person that other people look to and are like, I want to play with that guy. You got to realize that somebody's always watching. And you do live in a glass house, and people want to emulate you. I talked to you about, there was two people I watched growing up. I wanted to be like them. I wanted to be that bulldog. I wanted to be that person. And at the end of the day, you just never know who's watching. It's about your integrity. It's about your ethics. And
so put your filter on.
Yeah.
That's a definite do.
You can still be you and speak your mind and say the things you want to say, but say them in a way that will draw respect and people not think of you as being that person, if it makes sense.
Yeah. That's a do and a don't, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great advice. How about a do-over? Magic wand time.
Well, I would hope that it wouldn't change anything like now. Like if I had a do-over, it would change my personal life of like meeting my wife and being married to her. But if I had it to do all over again, I would have stayed. I would have erased that moment in college and stayed at TCC.
Would you?
Absolutely, 100%. I say that with all conviction,
Because you went on, though. You didn't stop your education.
No.
You actually went on. You have a degree in public administration.
Yeah.
And then you also, now help me with this, because I want to make sure we're clear on this. You left college, but you came back to college. Naval postgraduate.
Yeah.
You have an MS, correct? Mm-hmm. In security and homeland studies. Yeah. Naval, what is, I know Annapolis certainly.
Yeah. So I made a promise, me and my mom, when I talked to her about wanting to join the Highway Patrol, she said, make a promise, get your degree. You've got to promise me that. And, I think any kid who makes a promise to their parents, you should always try to keep that. Or not try, you should, So when I came on the patrol and got out of patrol school, I worked midnights and went to school during the day. I got my 2-year degree. At that time, I realized that, hey, look, I want to move up in this agency and I need to continue school. I'm used to it. So I went up to Thomas University and got a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. And I always wanted to get my master's to compete, and I was very fortunate with the Highway Patrol to be selected for a scholarship through the Naval Postgraduate School. It's the Navy's college, and they send other military, like the Marine Corps, the Army, it's a language college, but they have a Homeland Security sector there for private sector. And FEMA, I was able to get a scholarship through FEMA, a $95,000 scholarship from a master's degree there.
Wow.
They paid for everything, flew me out there, I was very blessed, very fortunate to get that.
On campus?
On campus in Monterey, yeah. Yeah, you go out there for 2 weeks, you go to school, you come back for 4 months, do a lot of your schoolwork, go back for 2 weeks.
Right.
And they also had a secondary position at the Custom Border College in Charlestown, West Virginia, which was really, really nice. They have a huge campus there. That's where they do all their training for customs. And that's a phenomenal facility there in Charlestown.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. I didn't know that about when I was doing the research, because you kind of wonder, you disconnect a little bit, and you get working, and you're having success, you're doing great stuff.
Well, and I have people all the time say, "Oh, what'd you do in the Navy?" And I'm like, "Oh, I wasn't in the Navy." And then they wonder how you got a degree from the Navy, and some people think, he's full of, I'm like, no, I was very.
Which is exactly when I'm doing the research, I'm going, well, wait a minute, how does that?
How's that work?
Why we're talking about
it's a civilian scholarship to the Navy, which is very fortunate, very blessed.
So your do-over would be to stay and finish out your athletic career?
Absolutely.
Okay. That's a pretty good do-over.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's a dream for a lot of people.
See where it goes. I just want to know, see where it would have went.
Because I still had it in me. I still had playing. I still had pitching. I mean, look, that year, the team I came in because I got hurt I got hurt my freshman year and sat out. They all were leaving with the 2 years. It was a total new thing. I mean, I was top dog.
Yeah.
I was coming back for, my third year, my second season of eligibility. I mean, there was going to be we weren't that great.
No.
Let's keep it for real, and as far as pitching went.
That was a pretty tough.
Yeah.
Pretty tough year.
We weren't recruiting anybody, but I told myself, hey, look, I'm probably not going to play pro ball. Why don't I just move on with my career and get on down the road? Instead of retiring at 50, I could retire at, 46.
Right, exactly.
So,
best advice received from whom? For me, and I'll set you up on this one. Yeah. It was there are so many from Coach Hogan, but with Hogan, it was, and I just talked about it a moment ago. I've been coaching for many, many years. You have to stop being a player.
Yeah.
You have to transition to being a coach. If you don't, you'll compete against your players, which I see it all the time. You see it in guys. And parents don't know how to put that into words. But another athlete, when he told it to me, I was like, oh, that's 100%. That's exactly what I'm doing. I didn't want to hear it because I was young and bullheaded. But best advice you got?
I feel like in my life, my desire to win and my drive was taken the wrong way. A lot of people might have taken it as and maybe it was the way I carried myself and have carried myself is they took it as a little bit of arrogance. I didn't talk arrogance through my verbal cues. It was the way I carried myself because I was so focused and so dedicated and so structured on where I wanted to go and what I wanted to be. I mean, like you said, and I do believe that. I wish I would have been a teenager. I wish I would have been a kid. I wish I would have stopped to smell the roses. I wish I would have enjoyed things instead of being that person. Majority of teams I played on, I was always the team captain. I was always the spokesperson. I was always the guy that everybody went to. And I think it had to do with my mom raising me to be that person, to be to be able to carry themselves and to be a survivor by themselves because that's what she did. And I have something said to me that was said to me. He's passed away by our former colonel of the Highway Patrol, David Brierton. He told me, he said, Brannon, you're smart, you're educated, you're a good-looking guy, you're a go-getter, you're a hard worker, you're probably one of the best troopers that I've ever seen. He says, but the one thing that you fail to realize is that at the end of the day, you're just a number. And at that time when he said it to me, I was a lieutenant on the Highway Patrol, and I thought that was probably the most arrogant thing that you could say. Like, I'm making a difference. I'm here contributing. I'm out here saving lives, working towards helping people. I'm dedicating my time on these hurricane details and when people have nothing and handing out food and going in and providing safety and security. But as I got older and things happened, I took that more as no matter how good you are, no matter what you do for people, you're always replaceable. And I think at times we forget that we can be replaced because we think we're going to live to be this old person. Tomorrow's never promised. And as I got older and started thinking about that and started processing it, because I was very young, I was a very young lieutenant. And he was really talking to me more about, man, take time for yourself, slow down, realize that tomorrow's not promised, and, wake up and smell the roses.
Maybe lighten up.
Yeah,
a little.
Up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that you say that, remembering you as an athlete, you had a different air about you. You weren't quite as jocular. You had a more serious demeanor to you. Not bad in any way, but you would laugh and joke and all that, but like you mentioned Ryan Friel. He's a class clown.
Oh, buddy.
He was just awesome. That kind of, you were not that guy. You were a little bit more stoic. You were a little bit more, you didn't engage in that directly. You, like I said, I think at the beginning of the podcast, you were a man when we got you.
I was, 10 years older than what I should have been at heart and mentally. But, like I said, you go back and you look at all my do-overs are a certain time frame. That nothing negative happened or whatever, but those do-overs would have changed the course of where I ended up today. I have no idea where I would end up or what might have happened.
Yeah, and that's the thing about that magic wand thing. I just want to know. And there's a scene and not to belabor or drive down in Field of Dreams, which was one of the great baseball movies of all time. And this, when I saw it in the theater, and it struck me because it was a scene near the end of the movie, and he had just had an interaction with the Back in Time with Burt Lancaster. I just want to stare down a picture of that one time and just wink at him, that kind of thing, or whatever. That's what we want to know. I want to know if I could have played.
Yeah,
at another level.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's okay, fine. I didn't make it. I just want to know if I could have. Was I good enough to play there? And it's a bit haunting when our career ends early.
Yeah, you talk about that. I remember a guy I played against, a guy named Carl Sadler from Taylor County, and it's not being arrogant, conceited. He wasn't better than me, but I think he got to throw to 3 batters in the pros. But the one thing that he can say, and I haven't seen the guy since high school, I wouldn't even know where he's at least he got to throw to 3 batters. At least he got to play. At least he got to step on the mound. At least he got to know what it was like.
Right.
And
just want to know what that feeling is.
At the end of the day, I don't care what anybody says. It's like an old mentor of mine, Mike Thomas, who was a lieutenant colonel of the Highway Patrol. He told me one time, he said, nobody can take away. You were a major. You were a chief. They can't take that from you. Nobody can take that from him. He at least got to throw to 3 batters.
Right.
He got to play in the big leagues. He got to stand on the mound. He got to see what it was like. Whether he got booed or whatever.
It don't matter. It don't matter, right?
Got to play
when you're a kid, you're looking up, I want to get there. But when you get to a certain age, I just want to know what it's like. I just want to know what that feeling is. I want to know if, throw him a slider, see if you can hit it kind of thing.
I remember, Reggie Jefferson, who a lot of people around here, I got to throw against him because he went to Lincoln. And when I was a senior, I was the only one who could pitch to him because of coming back. Nobody on the team, Lincoln, that year.
Well, and Reggie played 12 years in the big leagues, I believe. He is a sports agent now, I'm pretty sure, in Atlanta. And what many don't know during that time, and it still happens with Coach Henry today, a lot of the pro guys will come back to the college here because of that indoor facility, because of the easy access to it. So Dean Palmer, Reggie Jefferson, Scott Heenan, golly, the list goes on. In the fall, there would be 15 big league guys and 2 minor league guys working with us. And that happens in a lot of college programs where they come, they got to have a place to work. But Reggie, that cat can hit, brother. Son, that cat could put a barrel on it. Wasn't a great body, just normal guy.
Yeah.
Because Dean looked like he was made out of metal. I mean, he was mad. And of course, David Ross was 6'2", 220 in high school. Mm-hmm. But Reggie was just a regular looking guy, but he could find the dadgum barrel.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of close on some of these things. As I remember throwing that curveball you're talking about, and man, he was nowhere close. And man, I was stoked. I was pumped, man, because I just threw this and he wasn't even close.
It was gnarly.
Man, and then I threw a fastball to him, and he hit that thing, and it came straight back. Coach Robinson made me have an L screen just in case, which I was fine with. And I was like, all right, that might have been a double, and I threw him a few more pitches he hit. And I went to pick the balls up you talk about, and I picked that ball up. Instead of it being round, it was oval.
Yeah.
And it was a brand new ball. And for me, I had never, ever seen that. Played all kind of ball, but for a guy to hit a brand new ball with a wooden bat and you could never use that ball again.
Squished it. Yeah. No, that's the reason why he played over a decade in the big leagues. I mean, he could
just and then you read now and it's like had trouble with the curve. Well, man, I wasn't great. He had trouble with the curve. Right. But
who doesn't have trouble with the curve?
Yeah.
Give me a break. Yeah. Advice to the 15-year-old you.
To the 15-year-old me, I would look back.
The teenager kid.
Well, I mean, I answer both of those. For me, it would be enjoy the moment.
Yeah.
Stop growing up being too fast and getting ahead. We talked about that, and that was my downfall a lot is, as a 15-year-old, I was really, truly an 18, 19-year-old, ahead. But as a 15-year-old, I would say the same thing, man. Enjoy the moment. You only get a chance to be 15 once and 16 and 17. And at a lot of times guys were thinking, I just want to be here and be here. Man, enjoy the moment. Right. Enjoy life. I mean, we're talking about all these things it seems like yesterday.
I know, right?
We're talking about an adult league game and, coaching. I mean, it just really, truly seems like it was just a few years ago.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's been 30 years.
It has been 30 years. That's right. And last question right here. You ready? Final reflections. Best lesson. The thing that you learned most from sports. What is paid forward for you? That thing, baseball, whether it's resilience, hard work, process. What's the lesson that without that, everything else would have been different?
I hated it. I hated throwing every hard game against every team, and a lot of times I just wanted the scrub team to pitch against. I wanted the easy win. No, that's not the kind of player I was, but it was just to be nice. I'm like, I don't want to throw against this team who's 20-1, and we got to meet every day, every pitch. Can I just get the team that's like 8-10? Can I just get a game where I'm like, where I can just pitch and enjoy? And if I had to give anybody advice about that, it's just play up. Play up, man. I mean, I was where I was at because I was forced to play up. You don't win playing below or play with people better than you. They will make you better. Be around people that are better than you or that you can get something out of. Play up. Play up from your skill set.
Yeah.
Because even though you might want the easy win, man, you don't learn nothing from that. You don't learn anything from that in life. That's just a tune-up game. That's why big college teams, pro teams, well, I won't say pro, but college teams play these little small schools. That's just a...
Yeah, we talk about it a lot in college, especially. The overall record's much more the ego record. I'm looking at the conference record. That's what I'm really diving into. Yeah. And you have to, in college, it is important to get some guys some confidence and things like that, but you pitched those big games because you were who you were.
Yeah.
And they couldn't trust anybody else to pitch them.
Yeah, I mean, it was frustrating for me my senior year. 8 out of the 9 starters on North Florida Christian that won the state championship last year were in the Lincoln District. But the sad thing about that was I had a chance to go to NFC and play with those guys. Right. And I decided to stay at Lincoln. I had a chance to go to Florida High my senior year and play with David and Brooks Stevens and those guys, and had a chance to go to Bowls, which we all know about Bowls. That
was when Don Sirianni was running that machine.
Yeah, and Jeremiah Klosterman was there. He went to Florida State. I mean, they had a phenomenal program, phenomenal facility. We played in the Bowls tournament every year. I loved going over to Bowls. We played Fernandina Beach the first game of the year, every year. And, but I look back and realized that things turned out the way they were supposed to.
Well,
You're
doing great now,
man.
brother.
Yeah, man.